high. And then, frankly, many times where I've forgotten and drunk 5, 6 cups of strong coffee, I mean, I'm 10 times more buzzed and jacked up than the 2 times I did cocaine.
Yeah, and again...
So what's the deal with... Why do people want to use cocaine when in my experience, coffee jacks...
The sex and the partying, cocaine triggers something, and I don't know the science behind it, but it triggers this sexual thing, and sex is better, the partying, you can party longer. You know, back in the 80s, it was an extremely popular drug among the elite and the wealthy. We all know those stories, but that's why cocaine is so attractive, and you really have to have a lot of issues to become a cocaine addict, a true cocaine addict. Having the craving to snort a line of coke at a party is not the same as addiction.
Well, that's the same thing.
It's hard to get addicted to cocaine, folks.
The neurons in the brain that accept cocaine and other narcotics are the same ones that accept nicotine.
Okay.
It's the same class. Yeah.
So, again, we talk about drugs, and this isn't just this isn't really a drug issue. This is a freedom issue.
Well, it is. I mean, what I'm saying is 70 years ago, you could walk into any five and dime, and they would have even small stores would have a small pharmacy area at the back, and there was cocaine, heroin, just everything there on the shelf, and there were addicts. And, I've been out in the countryside at some old burned-down farm, from the 30s or something, and there's those laudanum bottles just in piles out in the woods everywhere, opium bottles. But, I mean, that person was addicted and had a problem. They didn't, need to go to prison. I mean, they bought that at Eckerd's.
Well, Americans are smart. Through education, we cut cigarette smoking by 50%. The government, those men that sit in Washington, D.C., believe they have to outlaw something to protect Americans, when the truth is we should be able to decide our own health. And as long as those drugs or whatever we use aren't causing harm to somebody else, we should have that freedom to use that particular substance. And I know we're repeating the same arguments, but here's what we have to really concentrate on, and that's the life of a prisoner. Listen, there are people sitting through this at the time it took to finish this interview. Every 38 seconds through this interview, somebody got handcuffed and put in the back of a patrol car, and they're headed to a cage right now. And those places stink. They're scary. They're horrible. They're full of pedophiles. You wouldn't believe what some of the guards look like. We're living in a country...
I call them maggot demons.
Yeah, they believe that they're there to punish people instead of incarcerate people.
Well, they get off on the sadist.
Yeah.
They're sadists.
Right. So
I've been in juvenile one time for 2 days, and somebody tried to rape me, and it was a guard. One visit, folks. One visit.
Somebody's getting raped right now in jail.
Oh, they're getting raped everywhere.
Yeah, that got put in there over a non-violent drug crime.
And then the jail guards and the cops, they all defend their corruption, just like CPS when they kill kids or get them drowned or whatever or use them for sex. Because the system wants to protect itself, all its crime, so the smart criminals are filling the government.
That's right. And the judges and the prosecutors that are supposed to be a checks and balance on these police officers are actually enablers. They're enabling the police to continue their power structure, because a judge can wield, he can't be, I sue judges, but the attorney general always wiggles them out of it.
And if a probation officer doesn't nail young people or nonviolent folks and doesn't find reasons to keep them under the thumb or send them back to jail, they get kicked out themselves.
That's right. And I want to make this point. The adults that you hear in our country talk about our kids are going to pot. What's wrong with our kids? They don't show respect anymore. There is a principle that says when there's a problem in a company, a government, a family, a school, anywhere, it's always leadership.
Oh, that's so key.
Instead of leadership beating the sheep up, you hear preachers sometimes going, y'all aren't doing this, y'all aren't doing that. Well, it's the same with the adults in our land, blaming these young kids for everything. It's not their fault. It's my fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my grandparents' fault. They worked like slaves in this country while their freedom was taken from them, and now they want to blame it on the way the kids are acting. That's why I don't spend a lot.
Exactly. It is the adults and the grandparents. It is their fault America's gone to hell. And let me expand on that. When you take, on average, several million children a year and incarcerate them in the CPS or in the juvenile justice system, every study, every statistic going back to the Panopticon in France 300 years ago and the modern prison system off of that, they know, the establishment knows that it actually is a university of crime, a university of gangs, and that's why our children act like gang members, because in all the groups of our children are people that have been institutionalized, and so it's literally polluting all of society. And you're right, it rolls from the warden to the corrupt jail guards who are selling drugs on the side to the inmates, right down. And they had a study for, they've been doing it for decades, for 2008, and it just came out in the 1st of January. The LA Times reported on it, that they watch over the decades the number of children in surveys, teenagers, that say they lie, they cheat on tests, they steal. And decades ago, it was like 15, 20%, and it went up 30, 40, 50. It's now over 50+% admit they steal, they lie, they cheat. And they were asked, why do you do that? And they said, everybody knows crooks run the government, crooks run society. This is a criminal society. Our teachers want us to cheat so that they get the bonuses. They basically hand out, and I was too dumb in school to know why some of the teachers, they didn't all do this, would kind of hand out and leave around the answers the week before the test that was coming up. I mean, I remember that. And what I'm saying is we are a corrupt... Look at Mexico. It's totally collapsing right now, where basic services can't even operate now because they become a completely corrupt society. So you're absolutely right. It is the leadership.
That's right.
Fish rots from the head.
And our parents and our grandparents were too busy in the church teaching the kids, don't drink, don't cuss, don't smoke, don't have sex.
Willie Nelson says that's what made him become a party animal.
Yeah,
because they told him don't do all this as soon as he got out of the house. It's just party time.
It's It's legalism. It's laws. Candy and
my parents didn't do that, so I never got into drugs.
Candy and I teach our kids, and it's worked. We've got a 16-year-old daughter we just dropped off at Austin Community College. We spent our time teaching our kids character qualities like loyalty, kindness, love, consideration, honor, respect. That way, when they do go out, and if they do start drinking, doing drugs, having sex, because they're going to experiment with those, we have a good quality human being out there that's loving and kind and caring and loyal and honest. So when they do that line of coke at a party, that selfishness that's been taught them all their life doesn't turn into them going and, trying to steal something. So it works to bring back teaching. Instead of calling it morals, because morals can be anything. Call it character qualities, and stop teaching your kid. If you have your kid in a church right now going through a 6-week program of celibacy, and for 6 weeks they're telling your kid, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, and if you sign on this contract, we're going to give you a ring, and you're going to walk across the stage, and all the parents are going to clap, I call bullcorn.
Well, let me stop you there. They actually have done a bunch of studies on that. And whereas it's not bad for parents to teach their daughters and sons, look, this is a serious thing. It produces babies. You don't want to get into abortions and kill your baby. You don't want to be destructive. You can get diseases. This is a loving thing and a special thing. Statistically, they don't go running around and have a bunch of sex. But you're right. They've done studies at these high schools and churches where they have them wear the rings, make a big deal out of it. All they're now thinking about is sex. And they found that the children that have done the celibacy classes are many times more likely to have sex, and the most destructive types of sex, because you're right. And that goes back to the Middle Ages with the chastity belts. Those people couldn't wait to have sex with whoever they could, because they were literally wearing a locked belt around their waist, and it made it all, and that's really about the perverts at the church wanting to look at girls going across the stage talking about how they're celibate. You're absolutely, well, they've done studies where if they put up billboards saying don't smoke, people smoke more. If they say, oh, this is taboo, marijuana's taboo, people want to go out and smoke it. But anyways, you're right.
Yeah, so I think we just need to get back to the ground roots of parenting. And while my parents worked like slaves to pay taxes, they weren't good parents. And most of the people I've met had dysfunctional homes. And we keep talking about bringing the family back. Well, we're in error and we're off track when we concentrate on teaching our kids laws and legalisms. Don't drink, don't cuss, don't smoke, don't have sex, don't have drugs. None of that stuff is working. That celibacy class that, Alex, that you were talking about, getting the ring, had they spent 6 weeks teaching what jealousy looks like, okay,